So we were discussing last time the three opinions in the Rishonim. When a couple come to get married, does one need to check their families, once we've assumed that they're all Jewish, whether they are compatible for one another, and there's no pasul, there's no something which invalidates one of them to marry one another, whether it's Israel and the Kohen. And we saw three opinions, Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam, and the Ramban. I'm not going to repeat them, we discussed them in the last recording. What is the halacha with all of this? As we said, the Rambam mainly goes with Rashi. And the Shulchan Aruch quotes and follows the Rambam, and therefore it comes out halacha that if a family is known within the community and they've been known to us, there is no need to check for anything. A boy and girl present themselves to the Beit Din to get married, to a rabbi to get married. We know the families where they come from, and we know they're Jewish, and they don't need to check. Perhaps there was a grandfather who was a mamzer, perhaps there was the mother who's a chalala, who's a woman who's invalid for Kohen, both for Yisrael and for a Kohen. No checks are needed, and that's the halakha, and that's the practice nowadays. If we know the families, they come, we just assume everything's fine and no investigations are needed. However, we will need an investigation if there is an irur, if there is, but the Shulchan Aruch rules, like the Rambam, that an irur is two witnesses, not just a rumor. A rumor would be insufficient to create a reyota, to create something to weaken this general principle that all families are becheskat kashrut. But if two witnesses appear before the Bedin and testify that they heard that his grandfather was a mamzer or his grandmother was this or that, then you would need to do investigations all the way back up to 4 or 5 generations sometimes. But assuming that hasn't happened, assuming there's no testimony that there is some kind of invalidation in the community, then it is not necessary to investigate in all circumstances, both for Israel and even for a Kohen. The question which is less clear is when a family comes, en mishpacha yudua. Although we have the principle, kol ha-mishpachot b'chizkat kashrut, all families are accepted to be kasher. Rashi said, if we don't know who the family is, then we do need to do checks, even if there's no irur, even if there's no rumor, even if there's no testimony, we have to check backwards and find out about the family. Did the Rambam hold like that or not? Within the Rambam, there were two different views. Some of the authorities took on that the Rambam held like Rashi in that view, that one does need to check when the family is not known. Others said no, Rambam doesn't hold that, and even if the family is not known, he doesn't make this distinction of Rashi whether the family is known or not. And in the Shulchan Aruch, it's not clear because he just quotes the Rambam, and therefore it's not clear how he held whether one needs to check in such a case or not. But the contemporary poskim, the Hazon Ish and others, are of the more lenient view that even if the family is not established to us, one does not need to check and one can assume that they are kasher. And therefore, and that's the practice nowadays. And therefore, to summarize everything which we've learned in this context, it is that if once people are established to be Jewish, based on all the guidelines we've talked about in the past, and they come to get married to one another, one does not need to do any kind of investigation to check the lineage of either male or female to see whether they are kasher or not, and have no invalidation within the family. Even if it's a Kohen getting married, no checks are needed in all circumstances, whether the family is well established, whether the family is not well established in the community. In all circumstances, no checks are needed. The only time when an investigation, a full investigation would be needed, which is a very extensive one, it can go back very far, is only when there is an irur, there is something to create a weakness, and that in halakha is two witnesses have come forward and testified of a rumor of that someone within the family was invalid and therefore will create the child to be invalid. Barring that, there are no need for checks. Next time we'll move on to the next topic about what happens if a person is faced with an accusation of being something and his response to it. How does that affect his status and his lineage? B'ezrat Hashem, we'll turn to that next time.